Hey everybody, it's DK with Mr. V Amps. This video is a little disjointed. We're working on a Vox AC30 6TB, which is a 90s era reissue, and this thing was burning up tubes big time and making horrible, awful buzzing noises when burning up tubes. So we joined this in progress after we put new tubes in it, thinking we just had a crappy tube with a short.
Okay, boys and girls. This is the second AC30 that we had here, and we put some new tubes in it because we had microphonic noisy tubes and it was making some ugly, yucky humming sounds. Put the new tubes in and it shut up. But I get a feeling there's a problem with our amplifier because it was making the horrible noises, and it was this tube, that tube was really just ringy and noisy and yucky on the previous set. And I put a new set in and a fuse, and things were well and good, and I was letting it cook here for a little while, and after about a half an hour it started to hum really bad, and I had two red plated tubes. I had these two. I did the swap where you swap them left to right, so we'll see if it follows the tube pair over there or if it decides to go on this side again. Let's just hope it works wonderfully for the next 6 hours. Okay, so I couldn't see it with the lights on, but I snapped the lights off, and it's obvious that the tubes over here are getting hotter than the tubes over there on that side, so time to deal with it. Okay, all you tone fiends, are you ready to grit your teeth at what I'm about to do? The bypass caps to the tubes are 24 and 25, and they have been replaced by these Sozo capacitors that really don't even fit good on this board. I mean, they really don't fit good. But capacitors, these two are the #1 suspects when we have red plating that doesn't follow the tubes. So, I mean, if it's a bad part, we gotta change it. And I'm sure somebody somewhere is tearing up inside about what I'm about to do, because we're going to go back to red drops stock style. It's what worked. Going back to what works. Okay, so my red caps are back in place, and I'm ready to kick the tires and light the fires again. And we're going to try to see if we have any additional red plating, yucky, horrible issues. Okay, so welcome to the dark. We're in the dark watching. We do have a computer monitor sort of glowing off to the side, but what would generally happen is the amp would begin to get noisy and it would start to hum, and you would see a glow over here. And we've only been on for 5 minutes, and so far I think we're doing pretty good. The amp's really quiet. If I turn a channel volume knob up to 1,000,000%, I can, you know, make it hiss or whoosh. I know the amp's working. But I'm just hoping that we don't have any red platy tubes here. So we're going to listen to it, let it cook here on the bench for an hour or so, and I think we'll be okay. The reason I chose those stock red drop caps is because they work. You know, granted, we pulled out the illustrious fancy Sozo capacitors, and I'm sure some people think they're wonderful for tone, but if I'm not mistaken, they are a reproduction of old technology, your paper and oil or something like that. And we abandoned that technology because of its higher failure rate. And we can argue that the amp sounded better with those in there, but if it hums like a banshee, fails and quits working, it's not that good. Oh well. Okay, so here we are. Oh, an hour later. Our amp is still being quiet, being good. No red plating. No violent humming like it was, because when it would start to red plate, it would hum violently. And it's not really doing that. It's got a real gentle, soft hum. I know this is boring. Bright light! There we go. So now we can see what we're doing. And our suspect were these two. That's pretty sad. Those are expensive. They're supposed to make your amp sound great. But if they make your amp red plate and blow tubes, that's no good. Can't have that. Back to the darkness. I don't see any red plating. Now we're getting into AMSR territory or whatever, ASMR territory with me whispering. So I'm going to just let it cook some more. Okay. Giving things a little bit of time and a few checks. Given enough time, it started to overheat the tubes again. So these are two 150 ohm resistors in parallel for a resistance of approximately 50 ohms. And we have, coming right off of the rectifier, we have 357 volts roughly, and through a resistor, let me just run this. I'm sitting here playing with the calculator on my phone here. So we've got 4 tubes. The voltage drop across the cathode resistor was 13.75, and the cathode resistor was 100 ohms. So yeah, even with that, we're still running at 11.5 watts per tube. Plate dissipation, 97%. 97% plate dissipation is that's barely acceptable range, okay? And we had less cathode resistance there. It actually had, now obviously the voltage would go down had I changed the resistance to 50 ohms, but it was running plate dissipation just absolutely freaking crazy. So way too much. So I'm going to change, now these two are in parallel, and my intent is to replace the two 5 watt 100 ohms with a 10 watt 150 ohms. That should hopefully bring her down a little bit, and we'll see where our bias is after that. Okay, so in the tradition of trying to fix only what's broke, this has turned into a little bit of a bunny trail, but we're using the tubes that came with it, and we still have some noisemakers, some songstresses. So we got 2 songstresses there. But my guess is those poor tubes have just been stressed to the point that they just weren't feeling so well anymore. And especially that poor little tube. But let's just leave that one in there for now and make sure our red plating issue is gone. I mean, these things were, the maximum plate dissipation for a cathode biased amp is said to be 100% of the rated plate dissipation. So for tubes such as this, that would be 12 watts. These are good for up to 12 watts. And right now we are doing 9.1 watts at idle, which is 76%. We were at, with 100 ohms of resistance, we were doing 90, we were like at 96.7%, something like that, and that was with, you know, that was with double the factory value. So these things were probably running the tubes at 110, 120% of the wattage the tube could handle. And I don't know where they got their magic tubes or whatever that they thought would run well in this, but I mean, these things alone get hotter than Hades. And initially my brain said to me, you know, well, it's a cathode biased amp. They've obviously going to bias these in a safe range for operation. Just plug and play, right? No. I guess this, you know, being a vintage style amplifier, they just reissued it with the exact same values they used to use when voltage coming out of the wall was 110 volts, and now it's 125. So all the voltages go up and these things run like wildfire. I don't know, man. I don't know, man. But anyway, yeah, I feel much more confident at letting this thing tick for a while. Okay, so we're running with our old tubes here, and we've been running for about a half an hour with our new cathode bias resistor. And I'm not seeing any hint of cherryness on the tubes, and the amp is still amping. You know, I can turn it up and it amps. So, turn it up here, get some amp sounds. So, that's good. It makes amp sounds. I'm not making a buzz or nothing, I'm just turning up the volume knobs to hear it make noise. So let's go back to our younger, better set of tubes, and we'll see if it decides to try to make any of those cherry out. Okay, so we ran for half an hour or so with the older EH tubes, which had two of them that were pretty darn microphonic. We're back to the new tongue saw set here, which none of the tubes are microphonic, and every time they started to get too warm, I caught it and shut it down. So they're new tubes. I'm pretty sure they're not barbecued, which is good. And we've got the cathode resistor, putting them well in the safe mode with the plate dissipation slightly below 80%. The maximum you can take these on a cathode bias amp is actually to the 100% mark, and we calculated and played around with this. And I say we because I did consult with our friend Glass Monster in Canada. Hi Jamie, I'm tired. But we decided that, you know, maybe 130 ohm would be would run these a little warmer and still be well within the safe range. If it sounds good, the 150 should be just fine. So we're going to run these for a while and keep checking to see if it's trying to turn them into cherries.